Hey guys, tonight, we're not just crawling into bed, we're slipping into the fine, whispering sands of the Sahara. Not the Instagram Sahara with camel rides and linen robes. I'm talking about the one with buried cities, time-bending clocks made of sand, and echoes of voices that haven't been heard in 1,000 years. There's no Wi-Fi out there unless you count the way the wind connects everything with a low, ancient hum. You're stepping barefoot into a desert that used to be green, where once upon a time, people built cities with plumbing better than your dorm room, and measured time with devices that didn't beep but sighed. And you, my dear insomniac explorer, are about to become the sole visitor to a civilization that forgot how to shout. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where and when you're listening. Bonus points if your time zone makes you question time itself. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking across a patch of windless silence. The wind has called it an early night, leaving the sky to a full, bloated moon hanging above like an upside-down hourglass. The sand shifts beneath your feet with tiny sighs, like the soft clicking of clock hands against glass. There is nothing around you but dunes, shaped like slow, sleepy waves that froze mid-crest. But then you hear a whisper. You don't know where it came from, or who said it. It's just ... There, a sound, like a page turning in a book someone left open centuries ago. You stop. To your left, your shadow. To your right, curved lines in the sand, like someone dragged their fingers across it just moments before you arrived. You crouch. Something glints beneath the surface. A sliver of stone, no, a curve. You dig gently, then with more purpose. Slowly, a dome of carved stone rises, just peeking from the sand like a buried rooftop. Its surface is etched with concentric rings, delicate as clockwork. This isn't a rock, it's an invitation. You dig deeper. Each scoop of sand feels like a countdown. And then, you find it. An entrance, narrow as a jammed elevator door, leading downward. The wind nudges your back with a warm breath scented with dust, old leather, and oddly burnt oil. You climb in. The moon is just a pale circle above you now. You grope your way down along stone walls, smooth, worn by time and hands long gone. You emerge into a chamber, octagonal, with a high dome roof and star-shaped windows that open, not to air, but to sand. And in the center, a giant hourglass. It isn't clear, it doesn't tick, but it moves. You can feel it. Sand trickles silently from top to bottom like it's keeping track of something important, like it's watching you. You touch the stone base. It's cold and engraved with symbols that look like a cross between ancient Egyptian and Tokyo subway maps. Maybe you activated something, or maybe you're just sleep deprived. Either way, the floor shudders. A slit opens across the room, a passage, calling you deeper. As you walk, imagine this. The Sahara was once green. Lakes, trees, hippos. People thrived here. They built cities, organized governments, traded across continents. And then, the climate betrayed them. The rivers vanished. The cities were swallowed. And the clocks kept ticking. You hear it now, the sound of sand flowing through hollow tubes in the walls. It whispers to you about marketplaces, astronomers holding wooden astrolabes, clocks powered by heat and wind instead of gears and batteries. Sounds ridiculous. Maybe, but historians still argue over whether some Saharan cities actually kept time using the speed of hot desert winds funneling through precision-carved stone vents. It's one of those theories that makes archaeologists squint, stroke their beards, and go, You find a smaller chamber now, circular, lined with chalky white plaster. In the center, a raised stone pedestal carved with channels. You sweep your hand across the top, and sand begins to flow in thin, steady streams. This isn't just an hourglass. It's a ritual timer. If you believe the inscription scrawled nearby in a language no one's fully deciphered yet. There's a strange burn mark on the wall, black, crisp but cold to the touch. A relic from some long-lost ceremony, a portal glitch, or maybe just ancient evidence of someone failing to cook noodles on sacred ground. You glance back toward the giant hourglass. The sand is still falling, steady umbothed, and for the first time, you're not counting seconds, you're counting breaths. The spaces between sounds, the way your smartwatch isn't buzzing, isn't tapping. isn't reminding, because here, you don't need a clock. You're in a place where time is kept by forgetting it exists. You lie back on the cool floor and look up at those star-shaped windows. Outside, sand. Inside, a story you've never heard. Below, thousands of years drifting downward with no complaints. Breathe easy now, because next up you'll be walking into ancient Garamantes of underground water tunnels, cooler than mint. Gelato and echoes from a century you forgot in school. You could probably sleep now, unless, of course, you're unnerved by the thought that you're currently lying on the roof of a buried civilization's basement. Good luck. You wake up without moving, one of those half-dream states, where you're not entirely sure if the floor beneath you is real stone or just the cold side of your mattress. But your fingers curl against something textured, grainy, and dry, touched with mineral stills. You're still there, still in the belly of the Sahara, still in the company of clocks made of sand. You sit up slowly. The hourglass behind you hasn't changed, but it feels older, like it aged just slightly. While you were sleeping, a dignified kind of age. The kind of age that wears desert winds like a silk scarf. Ahead of you now, another passage. It slopes downward, deeper, cooler. You walk, and there it is, that shift in the air pressure, that telltale sign that you've crossed the threshold. Something clicks in your brain, in your chest. Maybe in your past life, you were a desert architect. Maybe you're just impressionable. You emerge into a vast stone, hollow ceilings, thick pillars, and a mural smeared across the walls with faded ochre and blackened fire soot. You can't read the script, but the drawings, they tell a story of a city that thrived beneath the sands. Welcome to Garama. You didn't trip over its remains on a hiking trail, or spot it from a satellite image captioned with possible ruins. No, Garama has been here the whole time, hidden like a well-folded secret in a pocket no one checked. The Garamantes built this place centuries before you learned what Wi-Fi was, and they didn't just survive the Sahara, they worked it like a Swiss Army knife. Above ground, a harsh, cracking heat that could burn your eyebrows off. Underground, a cool, damp system of tunnels, channeling water through the desert like it owed them rent. They called them Fogara. You crouch beside one of these channels, now bed wide enough for your forearm, but it runs deep. You can hear it, water moving, still flowing, still alive. The desert's bloodstream. Most visitors to ancient cities look for towers or temples. Here, you look down, because the real masterpiece was underground. Miles of gently sloped tunnels, dug with stone tools, mapped with starlight and muscle memory. Some say the Garamantes used slaves to dig them. Others insist it was an entire communal effort. And yes, historians still argue about it, because, of course they do. You place your ear to the stone, not just to hear the water, but to feel the vibration. And you do. A soft rhythm, like a heartbeat. The kind that makes you realize you're not the only thing alive down here. A breeze brushes your cheek. You glance back, but the passage behind you has vanished. Not like magic, more like architecture playing hide-and-seek. Garama does that. It doesn't want to be remembered all at once. You wander through what used to be a marketplace or so. You assume, from the alcoves and grooves along the walls, there's a pile of smooth stones arranged in a spiral currency. A game, or just the world's oldest misplaced art installation. Something glints nearby. You move closer and find a small, bronze disc, no larger than a button, engraved with radiating lines. A sundial, perhaps, or a component from one of those sand-powered clocks you still don't entirely understand. You pocket it. You'll regret that in section 12. But that's future use problem. Further in, the ceiling opens slightly, and a shaft of light spills in dusty golden, like the breath of a god who's just woken up from a nap. The light hits a structure at the center of the room, a vertical slab, shaped like a tuning fork, with grooves that spiral like DNA. You touch it. The stone is warm and like the coolness of the floor. You realize it's positioned precisely to catch sunlight at this time of year, at this hour, at this angle. The light heats the grooves unevenly. The stone begins to hum. You're hearing a time signal, not in seconds, not in minutes, but in temperature gradients, in resonance, in the ancient desert equivalent of a grandfather clock's chime. This is how the Garamantes measured hours during rituals, crop watering, or maybe just how long to nap between oases. And get this, some researchers believe these devices were built not just for timekeeping, but for sound calibration. That's right, the desert's version of tuning an orchestra. only the orchestra was made of wind, sand, and human breath. Others, of course, say that's nonsense, that it's all symbolic, decorative. You decide both sides are probably missing. The point, you press your back against a column and let the faint vibration of the stone wash through you. It's oddly soothing, like a subwoofer in a yoga studio. You can almost imagine someone standing right where you are now, centuries ago, arms folded, also wondering whether it was too early for lunch. That's the thing about time in the Sahara, it's slippery. It folds, it drapes over you like gauze, and suddenly, you're not sure if this place is 2,000 years old or being built right now. Just around the corner of your imagination, you walk on. You pass what might have been a kitchen, a circle of charred stone, fragments of bone, a soot-stained pot with something that smells disturbingly like cumin, and beside it, a shallow indentation in the floor, filled with smooth black sand. You kneel beside it. As you run your hand through the grains, you notice something odd. They cling together, forming patterns as your fingers pass, swirls, spirals, almost like they're responding to you. Maybe it's magnetic, maybe it's a trick of humidity, or maybe the sand remembers. And just as you think that, a voice oft amused brushes past your ear. You spin around, no one, but the breeze has changed, and you know, deep in the ancient marrow of your being, that you've just been welcomed, or warned. Hard to say. You rise, you brush the sand from your hands, and as you do, you catch one last detail. Etched into the far wall, half buried beneath a collapse of rock, is a map. Not of land, but of stars, and in the bottom corner, a symbol you've seen before, the same one carved onto that giant hourglass dot. So you're being watched, tracked, or perhaps timed. You ready yourself to keep going. There's more to uncover, more clocks, more cities, more voices buried beneath dunes that pretend to be empty. And coming up next, a night market in the middle of nowhere, stalls shaped like broken teeth, traders whispering in tongues that predate fire. Oh, and someone's waiting for you there with an offer you really shouldn't accept. Sleep tight. You'll need it. You emerge into night. Not the gentle night of lullabies and porch lights, but a thick, flickering darkness peppered with the glint of oil lamps and the shimmer of distant stars that look like they've been watching this place for far too long. You've entered a space that's neither dream nor memory. It's a market. Yes. A market in the middle of nowhere. And no, you're not hallucinating from dehydration, though that camel-shaped cloud earlier was a little judgmental. The ground beneath your feet crunches like crushed glass. You look down and realize it's not sand, it's polished shards of mineral, scattered intentionally to reflect the moonlight. Every step feels like walking on someone's broken hourglass collection. Tents made of animal hide stretch upward like rib cages. Some lean in the wind, others lean on each other. Lanterns hang from long poles that curve like scorpion tails. The stalls are arranged in a perfect spiral, opening inward toward some invisible center. You walk, no one calls out to you. Not at first, but you feel them watching. Traders draped in robes the color of ash and rust, eyes lined with coal, hands covered in dust and gold ink. One woman is stirring a pot of what looks like molten copper, only it smells faintly of cinnamon and printer toner. This is not your average bazaar. You pass a tent where bones hang from strings, rattling in a rhythm that matches your heartbeat, a little too well. Another tent displays nothing but hourglasses, some upright, some broken, some floating inside glass orbs that gently spin on invisible axes. A child, not quite human, not quite shadow, sits cross-legged in front of them, humming. You hear words, not English, not Berber, not anything that fits into Google Translate, but you understand enough. They're talking about you. Someone says, the one with time on their skin. Another, he's early. A third voice, softer, no, right, on schedule, okay, cool, totally fine. You keep walking. At the center of the spiral, there's no fountain, no shrine, just a chair, not a throne. A chair, plain, wooden, old enough to remember trees that no longer exist, and behind it, a single stall, lit not with flame, but with a strange, soft glow, like moonlight reflecting off aluminum foil. The person inside isn't sitting. She stands tall, still, like a sculpture of wind frozen mid-dance, silver hair tied with strips of dried palm, a necklace made of sandglass beads, and in her hands, a fan, not just any fan, a giant one, made from woven date fronds and bone pins, bigger than a pizza box and 10 times more dangerous. She looks at you, not through you, at you. Then she speaks, and her voice is like dried rose petals sliding across marble. You're late. You open your mouth. Words fail you. You try again. Sorry. She tilts her head. Late by 1 grain. She gestures to her side, and suddenly you see it. A sand clock unlike any you've encountered. The frame is bone white. The sand inside is black, not just dark, but absorbing light. And it's moving ... upward, backwards. You blink. She snaps the fan open with a loud huff, and the breeze hits your face. It smells like old parchment and sunburn. You need to go, she says. Where? You ask. She doesn't answer. Instead, she raises the fan and begins to wave it slowly. The wind swirls. The sands at your feet lift, spiral, dance. You watch as a tunnel forms, a path through the market. The stalls vanish behind curtains of dust. Even the chair disappears. The wind builds. Her fan keeps moving, steady, relentless, and then you realize she's not just creating wind, she's controlling time. Each movement of the fan matches the rhythm of something ancient, primal, a heartbeat older than yours, a tempo that your lungs start copying without permission. A few historians, mostly the kind with tenure and too much sherry, have written about ritualized wind clocks in ancient Saharan traditions, devices powered by fans, designed to measure time not by sand falling, but by sand lifting. Most scholars dismissed it as folklore. Others argued it was a metaphor for seasonal wind patterns, but a rare few, believed the fan wasn't a tool at all. It was a key. You watch as her fan begins to slow. The path behind you seals. The market falls silent. She steps forward, places a small object in your palm. It's a ring, shaped like a coiled serpent, with a tiny hourglass embedded in its mouth. The sand inside isn't moving. Keep it, she says. You'll need to start time yourself next time. Then she turns, just like that, disappears behind her curtain of dust. You stand there, for a long time, long enough that the market fades back into darkness. The lights go out one by one. The lanterns dim. The stalls fold in on themselves like dreams collapsing at sunrise. And soon, you're alone again. Alone in a desert that pretends to sleep. You look down at your hand. The ring glints faintly. The sand inside has started to move, but not down. Sideways. Sleep. Well, friend, because next time, you'll stumble across a city that doesn't exist on any map and may never have existed at all, unless, of course, you're already there. You're walking again. The desert under your feet shifts with each step, like it's trying to decide whether it wants to hold you up or swallow you whole. The stars above aren't where you left them. They've rearranged themselves slightly, skewed, like a poorly hung painting in a museum that no one dares fix. You don't remember when the market disappeared, or how long you've been walking. The sky hasn't changed, but your thoughts have. They're slower now, smoother, like they've been sanded down by time. Ahead of you, a rock outcrop, nothing special. At first glance, just another craggy formation in an endless sea of beige, but your feet keep pulling you toward it, like they know something you don't. As you get closer, you see them, marks, lines, etchings, someone or something has carved into the stone. Not just symbols, but a map, rough, incomplete, but unmistakably intentional. A half moon, 3 parallel lines, and what looks like a city called Z's. Except here's the thing, Z's doesn't exist. Not on any modern map, not in the archives, not even in the dubious corners of the internet where conspiracy theorists argue about ancient aliens and hidden pyramids. Z's is a ghost, a rumor, a footnote scribbled in a crumbling traveler's journal and dismissed by every scholar worth their dusty elbow patches. And yet, you touch the carving, and the stone feels warm, like someone else touched it recently. You look around, nothing but sand. And then you see it just on the horizon. A glint, a shimmer, a distortion in the air, like heat rising off asphalt. You walk. It gets clearer with each step. Walls, arches, rooftops, all made of a strange reddish stone that seems to catch fire in the moonlight. No sound, no movement, just silence, like the city itself is holding its breath. You step through a crumbling gate. The air changes, cooler, denser. You're inside Z's. And oh, you wish you weren't, because this city, it's wrong. Not in a horror movie way, in a something is missing way. There are no doors, no windows, no markings on the buildings. Everything is smooth, rounded, to perfect. Like it was sculpted, not built. You walk down what must have been a main street. It curved slightly, pulling you toward the center like a drain. You pass buildings that hum faintly when you walk. Bystone that sings in frequencies. Just beyond hearing dot, and then you find it dot in the heart of the city. A pedestal dot circular, unadorned, and hovering just above it hovering a disk of sand, perfectly flat, rotating slowly. It doesn't fall, it doesn't scatter, it just spins. You step closer, and the sand begins to rise, not fall dot rise, forming shapes, words, images, a tower, a garden, a face, yours. You blink, and the images vanish, just sand again, still spinning. You look around, suddenly aware that there are no shadows here. Everything is evenly lit, even though there's no visible light source. The city glows, softly, constantly. There are theories, always are. Some say Z's was a trade hub that vanished in a sandstorm, so fierce it erased not just the city but its very time signature. Others say it was a mirage so persistent, it became real. And yes, historians still argue about whether it was ever real at all. Some claim the name Z's is a mistranslation of a Babylonian bird. Others insist it refers to a mythological clock tower that ticked backward. You sit on the edge of the pedestal and pull the ring from your pocket. The serpent's mouth is open. The sand inside the tiny hourglass is still moving, sideways, faster now. You turn it in your hand, and the disk of sand above the pedestal stops, dead still. Then it collapses, not just down but into itself. A hole opens in the pedestal. You do what any sensible person wouldn't. You crawl in. Inside it's narrow. The walls are smooth, like tunneled through clay by something patient. The further you go, the more the air smells like ozone and cinnamon bark. Not unpleasant, just ancient. You reach a chamber in the center, a sphere metallic, about the size of a basketball, covered in indentations like braille, written by wind. It pulses, not with light, with time. Every few seconds it shudders. A burst of air, a low hum, and a pattern of sand spills across the floor, arranging itself into shifting shapes. You realize it's a clock, a language, maybe both. You try to read it. You fail, but your body understands it. Your heartbeat sinks, your breath matches the rhythm, and suddenly you feel calm, anchored. You sit, you watch, and then you realize you're not alone. Etched into the wall beside you is a silhouette, not painted, not sculpted, burned into the stone. A human shape, arms outstretched, face looking up. You don't touch it, you just sit beside it. Maybe it was the last person who found this place. Maybe it was you. Or maybe this city exists outside of who and when. Either way, you've been marked. The hourglass ring in your palm glows faintly now, and the sand inside, it's gone. You've arrived exactly when you were supposed to. Sleep gently, because next, you'll encounter the first of the desert's true inventions. A clock that doesn't measure your time but the desert's. And let's just say, it's not on your side. You wake to heat, not the dry kind that scrapes your throat and makes you wish for iced coffee, but a slow, pressurized warmth, the kind that seeps into your bones and wraps around your spine like a very determined blanket. You're no longer underground, you're above the city of Zizor at least. What's left of it, and the sun is beginning to creep above the dunes like an overworked spotlight operator. And you look, you're lying in the shadow of a tower. No, not a tower. Something taller, thinner, stranger. It rises from the sand like a bone from an ancient rib cage, pale and bleached, riddled with thin slits and carved vents. There are no ladders, no doors, just openings, dozens of them, spiraling upward. You stand. The sand beneath your feet is hot now. You squint up at the structure, shielding your eyes. A breeze winds through the slits, creating a low whistling note that rises and falls in waves. You recognize the sound, not music, not wind. Time. You, single quotes restanding in front of a clock, not the tick-tock kind, not even the centrical kind. This is something else, a structure designed to measure time using the movement of hot air. The sun heats the sand. The sand heats the air rises, the wind sings, and the pitch. That's how they told the hour. A heat clock. You circle the base. Someone carved patterns into the lower stone spirals. that curve like galaxies, interlocked with tiny notches that line up with shadows. As you pass through the tower's shade, your own shadow shifts across the patterns and clicks a soft notch of alignment. You're a human sundial now, and you've just told the desert it's 9:42 a.m. Not bad. Somewhere far off, a low, echoing chime hums back to you. You freeze. Listen, it repeats. Another tower. There's more than one. This wasn't just a device, it was a network, a whole system of towers, connected by sound and heat and open air. They didn't wear watches out here. They were the watchers. Now, historians, they absolutely lose their minds over this stuff. Some claim these towers were just wind beacons, early warning systems for sandstorms. Others say they were religious, or astrological, or decorative. Because, yes, when in doubt, academia calls everything ritualistic and moves on. But a few fringe researchers, the brave ones with cracked glasses and more books than friends, they believe these towers sang to each other like giant tuning forks, echoing across the Sahara to keep time across cities, across tribes, across silence. And you're here now, listening. You climb a dune to get a better view. The horizon shimmers. You spot another tower, then another. Their silhouettes tilt in odd directions, like frozen dancers mid-turn. You imagine them humming across the wind, sending messages, hour updates, warnings, greetings, or lullabies. You sit. The tower beside you sings again. This time, the pitch has changed. The sun's angle has shifted. The sand is hotter. The airflow different. This is what you came for. Not to see time, not to hear it. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. The wind moves through the vents like breath through a flute. The desert, alive and breathing. And you're part of it now. A temporary note in its endless song. Then something new. A different note. Higher, sharper. You look up. A flock of birds wheels overhead. Not desert birds. Not scavengers. Their wings are broad and dark, tipped with bright copper. Wait. Not feathers. Metal. You squint. Nope. Definitely birds. Mechanical. No. Organic. Unclear. One of them dives, then swerves away at the last moment, as if it recognized you and chose not to interfere. You blinked. They're gone. Okay. Cool. Totally fine. You stand. Back at the base of the tower, something glitters in the sand. You reach down. A shard of glass curved, with tiny etchings across its surface. A fragment of an hourglass. Maybe, or something newer, something older. You slip it into your pocket. You're really collecting cursed artifacts like it's your part-time job now. And then the tower groans, louder this time. Not dangerous, just ... Aware. You step back. And the wind whips harder, pulling your scarf tight, throwing sand into your ears. The tower wails once more, a long, slow crescendo, and then settles. The sun is high now. You've been listening for over an hour, but it felt like 10 minutes, or maybe a day. That's the thing about clocks that sing. They don't mark time. They distract you from it. You begin walking again, but not away, toward the next tower. Because something about this emits, not just about tracking hours, it's pointing you somewhere. The pattern, the pitch. The way your ring vibrates ever so slightly when the wind hits the right note. This is a trail, and you're following the hum of ancient time, like a bloodhound with no concept of weekends. Coming up next, a queen who told time with a fan and a mirror. And if you're lucky, you'll live to tell someone about it, probably. You're not walking anymore. You're gliding. The sand has hardened underfoot, cooler, smoother, like glass left out overnight. The towers hum behind you, their songs fading into the wind like someone else's dream. Your shadow grows sharper as the sun climbs, and far ahead, rising from the horizon like the edge of a coin, is something you definitely weren't expecting. A fan, a giant fan. Standing upright in the middle of the desert, its blades as tall as palm trees, slowly rotating. In the sun, you blink, squint, shake your head. Still there. You approach carefully, as one does when encountering suspicious household objects made absurdly large. At the base of the fan, stone steps, carved with geometric patterns and tiny mirrored tiles, that catch the sunlight and scatter it in dizzying spirals across the sand. You climb, one hand grazing the edge of a tile. It's warm, smooth, precise, that kind of craftsmanship that suggests whoever made this didn't rush. At the top, a platform. Shaded, cool. And seated on a low throne made of obsidian and woven palm fiber, is a woman, or something like a woman. Her skin glints like sun-warmed bronze. Her eyes are hidden behind mirrored lenses the size of dessert plates, and her hair, silver, not grey, not white silver, bound into thick braids that coil around her shoulders like vines that learned geometry. She doesn't speak right away. Instead, she tilts her head slightly and studies you through those mirror eyes. And for a terrifying moment, you see yourself, small, dusty, confused, holding a glowing ring and a pocket full of questionable time relics. "You brought the breeze," she says. Her voice is wind through wheat, soft, dry, and strangely musical. You look up at the giant fan behind her, still, turning. "Not just a breeze," she adds. "The breeze. Okay, sure, makes sense." You try to respond, but she lifts one hand, silencing you. In her palm is a small mirror, round, scratched, but gleaming like a second sun. She tilts it, and suddenly, the air shifts. You feel the heat bend, the fan groans, and something happens behind your eyes, a flash of memory or vision. You can't tell which. You see a city lit entirely by sunlight, redirected through 1,000 mirrors. You see walls that glow from within. You see people moving in time with the shadow of the fan, like dancers in an invisible ballet. You gasp. She closes the mirror, and the sensation vanishes like a pop-up ad you didn't ask for. "They say I ruled for 80 years, she says, with a shrug that suggests she thinks that number is conservative. "Others say I never existed." You nod slowly. "Historians." She smiles, still arguing. She rises. And that's when you notice the clock, not on her wrist, on her fan. Etched into each blade, grooves, each at a slightly different depth and angle. As the fan spins, wind passes through the grooves, creating distinct tones, soft, high, low. It's a song, a coded message, a clock you can hear, if you know how to listen. She begins to move, slowly, gracefully. A single step causes the mirror in her palm to catch the sunlight again. She angles it, then snaps her wrist. A beam of light shoots outward, hits a mirror on a distant dune, and redirects. Another mirror, then another. Soon, an entire network of reflections dances across the horizon, like a Morse code message in sunlight. "They told time this way," she says. "When the fan was too soft to hear, when the wind slept, we still needed light." And you realize this isn't just a story about clocks. This is a civilization that refused to be late. They shaped time using wind, sand, and sunlight. While the rest of the world was still debating water clocks and candle timers, the queens of the Sahara were slicing the sun itself into measured hours. You ask, cautiously, "So, you controlled time?" She tilts her head again. "No one controls time, but we asked it nicely. Fair." You sit with her on the platform. The fan continues its soft, rhythmic turning. The sun passes through it like stained glass, shadow patterns fluttering across the stone. She tells you things, of how the city she ruled no longer stands, of how its last mirror shattered in a sandstorm, of how some believe she was just a myth. The desert's attempt to explain a timekeeping system too elegant for outsiders to believe. You don't interrupt. Not once. You listen, because when a woman who bends sunlight to speak tells you her story, you don't scroll past it. Eventually, she hands you her mirror. It fits in your palm like it's been waiting for you, and when you look into it, not your reflection, you see sand. Shifting, boring sideways, just like the ring. She places her hand over yours. The fan slows, the wind stills, and she says, "This will get you through the place where shadows forget to move," which sounds ominous, because it is. You descend the steps. The wind picks up again. The fan resumes its motion. You turn to look back, but the throne is empty, the platform bare, the queen gone. Only the sound remains, a soft rhythmic sigh, as if the desert itself just exhaled. Next, you'll find books that don't burn, pages made of animal skin and ink that hums in moonlight. A library no one was meant to find. Sleep light. You're not alone anymore. The desert is quieter now. Not in the comforting, sleepy way, but in that suspicious, something's listening kind of way. The wind has dropped to a whisper. The sun rides high like an overzealous spotlight, and every footstep you take is met with a hush, like the sand is trying to keep your arrival secret. And that's when you see it. Tucked behind a fold of rock, half buried beneath a dune, is something unmistakably wrong. A doorway, but not just any doorway, a rectangle of deep black stone. flat as a phone screen, surrounded by fractured pillars and collapsed lintels. It leans slightly to the left, like it's been holding up too many secrets for too long. No walls. No walls. Just the door standing alone. You hesitate, because, you know, doors with no buildings rarely lead to good decisions. But you step through. Of course you do. Inside. It's cool, silent, dense, like walking into a memory you didn't know you had. The air smells like leather, charcoal, and something faintly sweet, like dates soaked in ink. You're in a library. You can't see the ceiling or the walls. Just endless rows of low shelves made of petrified wood, stretching into a soft darkness lit only by thin shafts of blue light, seeping from cracks in the ceiling. You reach for a book. It's not paper. It's not paper. It's hide. Thin, tanned, and supple, bound with sinew and inked with a script so elegant it looks like it was poured rather than written. You run your fingers over the words. They vibrate softly, like a purring cat made of syllables. You open to the first page. Not a title, not a name, a question. What hour is it when no shadows fall? You don't answer, because you're not sure. The book wants an answer. You keep walking. Each shelf holds texts on wildly different materials. Reed polished bone, translucent bark. Some of the books are nothing more than spools of silk, wound tight with microscopic symbols stitched in glinting threads. You come to a section that hums. Literally. Tiny vibrations move through the floor, up your legs, into your chest. You kneel and find a row of triangular containers, each holding a thin sheet of something that looks like wax, but feels like stone. You slide one out. It begins to sing, not with words, with frequencies. You feel it more than hear it. A slow, rising tone that makes your skin crawl and relax at the same time. The tones align with the pulses from the tower you left earlier, like different parts of the same machine, the same clock. You replace the sheet. The hum stops. In the center of the space is a circular decor. What remains of one carved into the stone are star maps, detailed, accurate, but wrong. Constellations in positions that don't match any known sky. You place your hand over one of the carvings. It's warm, and a voice not yours says quietly in your ear, "Time is a direction, not a measurement." You jerk back. No one's there, but you feel watched again. You turn and notice a figure at the edge of the stacks, hooded still, holding a scroll, watching you like you're the overdue return they've been waiting centuries for. You wave awkwardly. The figure tilts its head, then vanishes behind a row of shelves. Sure, great. You find another book, this one bound in sand-hardened linen. Inside, diagrams of machines. Clocks, yes, but also calendars, compasses, devices that track wind, moonlight, even dreams. One page shows a ritual you recognize: the Queen's mirror, catching sunbeams, redirecting them through stone tunnels, to illuminate a central well. The caption, written in careful script, reads, "The breath of light must strike at noon, or the waters do not return." You don't know what that means, but your mirror ring warms faintly. You turn the page. The next diagram shows a clock that runs backwards, not metaphorically, literally. Its design is inverted. Weights rise instead of fall. Sand floats up. Time is subtracted, not added. Beside it, a warning. To use this is to forget forward. Cool. Definitely won't touch that one. He closed the book. The shelves shudder slightly, as if displeased. But you ignore them. You've grown used to inanimate objects having opinions around here. At the far end of the hall, something glows. You approach a narrow plinth. Upon it, a cube of etched glass, suspended mid-air. Inside the cube, a single grain of sand, frozen, hovering. You stare at it for a long time, because you know it should fall, but it doesn't. And now that you've seen it, you feel slowed, as if your heartbeat has paused between beats. As if blinking might take longer than usual. You step away. Immediately. You feel better. Not normal. But better. This library isn't here to store time. It's here to hold it, to bend it, to trap it in books and scrolls and humming sheets of stone. You pass a sign, carved in 3 languages, none of them yours. But you understand the message. Please whisper. Time is easily startled. You exit the way you came, through the door that isn't a door. Back into a sunlit world that suddenly feels thinner. Like the air itself is stretched tight over something important. Next up, A neighborhood with no shadows, none at all. Just pure, uninterrupted sun and architecture that makes time itself tilt sideways. Rest your eyes. It only gets stranger from here. The light hits differently now. It doesn't just shine, it balances, as if the sun above you has stopped climbing and instead decided to hold perfectly still, like a spotlight operator frozen in mid-pan. There are no shadows here, none. You check your hand, your feet, even the edge of your pack. Nothing. You're standing in a place where light has no rival. Ahead of you, a street, straight as an arrow, paved not with stones, but with a fine golden sediment that packs tightly underfoot, warm but not scorching. On either side rise buildings tall, narrow, almost blade-like in shape. Their surfaces shimmer with microscopic glints. At first glance, they look metal, but when you run a hand along one, it feels like chalk soft, dusty, and utterly alien. Each building leans slightly, not forward, not back, but sideways, just enough to make you tilt your head. You look up. Still no shadows. That's when it hits you. These buildings are angled so that sunlight slides down their sides all day long without ever creating a shadow. The architecture bends to the sun not out of respect, but out of strategy. You're in a district designed to erase time. See, shadows tell you everything. They change with the hour. They mark movement, passage. Here, in the absence of shadow, time becomes ... elusive, directionless, unanchored. You begin walking. Each building you pass has no visible door, just narrow notches, like vertical slits. Some of them only show. You peek into one. Inside, nothing, or maybe everything. A room full of golden dust, suspended mid-air. Like walking into a thought you forgot mid-sentence. You move on. The deeper you go, the stranger the city becomes. At intersections, the streets tilt slightly, not enough to make you stumble, just enough to shift your balance. Your body begins to compensate without asking. Your steps become measured, slower, almost ... choreographed. That's when you see the markers, little glass plates, embedded in the walls. Each has a symbol etched into it, some you've seen before in the library, others entirely new. Next to each symbol, a number. You study them. Notice the pattern. The numbers aren't hours, they're angles. The degree of incline from sun to wall at a specific time of day. A solar map etched into the fabric of the city, and it dawns on you. This entire district is a living sundial. Not just a building or a tower, the whole place. A sculpted, silent machine built to track time using only light and geometry. No moving parts, no sand, no clocks, just design. Architecture as calendar. Of course, historians don't agree. Some say this was a religious zone built to avoid shadows as a form of purification. Others claim it was an experimental observatory. A few suggest the buildings were tilted by earthquakes and everyone just rolled with it. But you're starting to suspect this was something bigger. A zone where time paused. You stop at the center of a circular plaza. There's a thin vertical rod in the center, an obelisk maybe, or just a glorified stick. In a normal city, this would cast a long, elegant shadow across the plaza. Here, nothing. You circle it, still nothing, no matter the angle. And yet you feel it, a presence like the ghost of a shadow, a pressure in the air where a shape should be. You squint. The ground has tiny cracks, not random, spiraled precise. The shadow isn't gone. It's inside the stone, etched invisibly, marked, not with dark but with depth. This city didn't kill time, it absorbed it. A flash of movement just at the edge of your vision. You turned, someone or something just disappeared into a narrow slit between two buildings. You follow, and immediately regret it. The corridor is tight, claustrophobic, lit from above by a paper-thin strip of reflected sunlight, bouncing down from mirror to mirror. You move sideways like a crab, shoulders brushing the walls. Finally, the passage opens into a chamber, small, square, a cube. Really, in the center, a chair. You've seen a lot of strange objects on this trip, but this one takes the sand cake. The chair is sculpted from stone, smooth as soap. The arms are carved into hourglasses, sideways ones. The backrest is tall, with a narrow slot at head height, and sitting in it, no one, but the seat is warm. You don't sit. You've seen enough horror movies. Instead, you reach out and touch the slot in the headrest. It pulses, a faint glow, and for one perfect second you feel what the city must have felt. Stillness, not silence, not emptiness, but a pause. A moment stretched until it hummed. No forward, no backward. Just now, you step back, the chair cools, you exit the chamber, blinking into the sun again. Still no shadows, but your own heartbeat now feels like a metronome. Something inside you has aligned with the light, and then just as you leave the place you hear it, a click, somewhere far away. A mechanism you didn't know existed, just registered your presence, or your passage, or maybe just your understanding. Either way, something's awake now, and it's watching. Coming up, a wandering astronomer with a compass made of bone, and a theory that the stars aren't just lights, but signposts for lost time. Breathe deeply. This road is bending. The road doesn't straighten, it curls, not dramatically, just enough to make your internal compass tilt half a degree with every step, like the world is trying to reorient you. Gently, repeatedly, persistently, you keep walking. The sun is still overhead, but the light has softened, as if it's passing through sun clouds. No, there's nothing above you but blue and breathless sky. Still, everything feels filtered, washed in a golden blur like an old photograph. And then you spot him, just off the path, sitting on a flat stone like it's a favorite bench he's known his whole life. An old man, thin, worn, dressed in layers of linen that flapped lazily in the desert breeze. His beard is long, braided at the ends with tiny metal rings that chime softly whenever he shifts. His eyes, practically fossilized. In his hands, a circle, bone smooth, a compass of sorts, except it has no needle, just carvings, constellations, and a narrow slit at the top. You approach. He doesn't flinch, doesn't move, just gestures for you to sit. So, you do. Without a word, he lifts the bone disc and holds it to the sky, angling the slit toward the fading sun. Then he says, in a voice like sandpaper wrapped in silk, "The stars are wrong." You blinked. He nods slowly, as if that was the beginning of the explanation, not the end. They shift when they shouldn't, appear where they never have, disappear mid-season. You feel it. Yes, you, think so. He lowers the disc and places it gently in your palm. The carvings don't make sense at first, but then your eyes adjust. These aren't just stars. They're sequences, lines connecting them in impossible ways. Timelines, conjunctions, loops. This is not astronomy, he continues. This is cartography. You raise an eyebrow. The stars are not lights, he says, but milestones. They mark where time bends, where it overlaps, where it breaks. You examine the disk more closely. Around its edges are symbols of planets or moons, but of clocks. Tiny hourglasses, each one broken differently. One shattered, one sideways, one melted like a wax candle on a dashboard. Most maps tell you where, he whispers. This tells you when. You hand the disk back to him, careful not to smudge whatever reality it's holding together. He chuckles. You've come far, but not far enough. You've been inside time, underneath it, between its teeth. Now, you must walk ahead of it. You glance down the path. It stretches on, still curving, still subtly mocking your sense of direction. He rummages in a worn leather pouch and pulls out a piece of paper. It's brittle, yellowed, folded into oblivion. He opens it slowly. Inside a star chart, but not of the sky above. It's the wrong hemisphere, and the wrong epoch. These, he taps the page, are the stars we should see, but we don't, because we've drifted. He leans closer. The Sahara doesn't just erase cities, it erases coordinates, and you begin to understand. The cities you found are Ramesses, the Fan Queen's kingdom. They weren't just buried, they were misplaced. Time didn't forget them, it just lost track of where they belonged. The old man carefully folds the chart and places it in your hand. You'll need this when the sky starts repeating. Yes, that's as ominous as it sounds. He stands, bones creaking like old floorboards, and begins to walk away slowly, diagonally, into the light. You turn to ask one more question, but he's already gone. Dust hangs in the air like breath unspoken. You look at the chart again. Somewhere in the bottom corner, a symbol catches your eye, the same serpent from your ring, and next to it, a small drawing of a tower, one you haven't seen yet. Your journey's not over, but it's shifted. You're not just walking through time anymore, you're tracking a fracture. Next up, a temple without a name, a floor that remembers your footsteps, and a secret buried not in stone but in rhythm. Sleep now, if you can. The stars might change while your eyes are closed. The map is still in your hand. You've folded it, pocketed it, pretended you weren't glancing at it every 5 minutes, like a tourist who swears they're just exploring. But now it's more than a map, it's a clock, or a compass, or maybe both, because the sky, yeah, it just repeated itself. You first noticed it when that same cluster of stars, the one shaped like a bent paperclip, passed overhead twice, exactly the same way, same orientation, same spacing, and that shooting star, Daciavudied itself right on cue. You're walking through a loop, and up ahead, half submerged in a dune that seems more suggestion than obstacle, is a building so smooth, so deliberate, it might have been poured instead of built. You step inside, instant silence, not the desert's usual hush, but a hollow, padded kind, like your footsteps just got swallowed. The air is cool, dry, and faintly sweet, like rain on old stone. The space opens into a wide chamber, octagonal again, with a domed ceiling so high it disappears into darkness. The walls are bare, save for a few faint lines etched at shoulder height. No art, no script, no mosaics shouting their significance. Just one thing, the floor. You step onto it, and the floor responds, not visually, not physically, audibly. A soft chime with your first step, then another, slightly higher, with your second. You stop, step backward, the tone descends. This isn't a floor, it's an instrument. You kneel, press your ear to the ground, below the of hollow channels, carved and tuned like a windpipe. Each pressure point on the surface triggers a note, a hum, a vibration. This temple was made to remember footsteps, and more than that, it plays them back. You begin to walk, slowly, tracing the outer edge of the room. The floor responds to your rhythm, creating a melody of low, bell-like notes. You pause. The chamber echoes once, then silence. Then your melody repeats itself, softly, but not as an echo, as a recording. You're hearing the path you just took, played back like a music box of motion, and then another sound joins it, a second melody, not yours. Footsteps, much lighter, moving, in a spiral, a dance around the center of the room. Someone else has walked here before, and the floor remembers. You step carefully toward the center. The notes change, sharper, faster. Your own steps merge with the old ones, and suddenly the room becomes a duet of time. Your rhythm, theirs, past and present interwoven in harmonic footfall. You reach the center. There's a raised stone disquaced high, covered in tiny indents, arranged like constellations. You place your hands on it, it hums, a vibration deep in your chest, and then, for a brief second, the entire chamber activates. The walls glow faintly, just lines, moving in slow circuits, syncing with the rhythm of your heartbeat. You feel pressure beneath your feet shift, adjust. The air thickens slightly, as if the room is tightening, aligning. You see flashes, now dash impressions, dancers, priests, builders with measuring rods, all walking in patterns across this room, tracking time not with clocks but with choreography, movement as record, as ritual, as calendar. This was their archive. This is where they stored rhythm. And again, the question arises, why? Historians barely agree this temple exists. Those who do think it was a tomb, or an observatory, or a performance space. But one theory, whispered on obscure message boards and in long-abandoned archaeological dig notes, suggests something wilder, that the ancient Saharans believed time was not linear, but musical, that it had verses, refrains, bridges, and sometimes a good chorus. You don't know if that's true, but you do know this room is singing now. Your steps, theirs, blended together, looping, remembering, carrying each other forward, and then abruptly it stops. All sound cuts out. You feel the silence slam into you like a vacuum. And in that silence, the floor shifts, reveals a staircase spiraling downward. You descend, deeper than expected. The air gets colder. The walls dampen with age and silence. You light a small torch, its flame flickers blue in the stale air. At the bottom, a chamber, circular, unfinished. Walls covered in sketches, chisel marks, footprint diagrams, and in the middle, a single word, scratched hastily into the stone, again and again, in different scripts. Listen. You step closer. Your ring glows faintly. The mirrored disc from the Queen's fan pulses once in your satchel. Everything you've collected begins to vibrate, softly, in sync. And then you understand. This place wasn't built to count time. It was built to echo it, so the past could keep walking beside the present. so the forgotten would never truly be silent, so the song could continue. You close your eyes and the chamber hums again. Next, a team of modern archaeologists who set up camp and nearly lost their minds because they didn't realize the desert had started talking back. Sleep tight, or try to. Somewhere, someone is walking exactly in your footsteps. Night again, or something like it. The sky above is blank. No stars, no moon, just a dull, endless smear of charcoal. The air feels damp, almost metallic, like someone left a radio on in the next room, broadcasting static at a frequency just below your ability to notice. You climb out of the spiral chamber and back into the upper world, but it doesn't feel like up anymore. It feels sideways. The sand is different here, finer, lighter. It doesn't crunch, it whispers. And as you walk, you realize something strange. Your footsteps aren't disappearing behind you. They're filling in, not with wind, with precision, like something is erasing them as fast as you make them. You crest a ridge and see it. Below, a small cluster of tents, modern fabric domes, nylon walls, solar panels tilted toward the last angle of daylight. There's a generator humming, a couple of foldable chairs scattered around a cold fire pit, and a stack of crates labeled in 4 different languages. Archaeologists. You approach. No one calls out. No dogs bark. No radio crackles. The camp is still. You hesitate, then step closer. A folder lies open on the folding table. Field notes, scribbled observations, and in the center photos. Your stomach lurches. It's the floor from the temple you just left. Your footprints. Your exact path, labeled, numbered, but not just as footprints, as data points, as timestamps, and in the margins, frantic handwriting. The pattern matches the prior entry, identical, but we've never been here before. You flip through more pages. The story unfolds like a journal written inside a dream. They arrived a week ago. GPS failed almost immediately. Batteries drained faster than normal. They heard sounds at night chimes clicking, the whisper of pages turning in a room with no books. 1 entry. Sand moving without wind. Sounds like ... speech. Recorded, it will play back later. Another, mirrored surfaces won't show our reflections. After 5 p.m. we appear, but wrong, tilted. You put the folder down. That's when you notice the recording equipment, lined up neatly in a corner. Field mics, solar-charged recorders, headphones. You pick up the one marked Second Night Near Tower. Echo. You press play. At first, nothing. Then faintly, a voice, not yours, not theirs, something older, scraped and stretched, a language you don't know. But your brain tries to translate anyway, and then your own name not spoken, whispered. Like someone standing behind you with a smile that doesn't reach their eyes. You drop the recorder. Okay. Deep breath. You move to the largest tent. Inside, sleeping bags, notes pinned to the inner walls, a hand-drawn map of the site. And in the corner, a small pile of personal effects watches, all stopped, phones, drained and cracked. A necklace with a tiny hourglass charm sand inside, unmoving. They left in a hurry, or they did, single quotes T. Because on the floor, arranged in a perfect circle, are 5 sets of shoes, placed neatly, toes pointed inward. You don't touch anything. You don't sit instead. You step outside, into the soft, sentient dark. The generator sputters low on fuel. The wind starts up again, but it doesn't blow across your face. It circles, like it's thinking. You walk past the tents and find the spot described in their notes. A low ridge, a flat stone, an indentation where they claimed they heard the clearest sounds. You crouch, place your ear to the ground. At first, nothing. Then vibration not, random rhythmic a steady pulse, like a heartbeat amplified by stone. Then, layered over it, a sound like grains of sand being pushed aside in a very specific order, not like a dune collapsing, more like someone writing in sand with intention. You press your ear harder. The stone speaks not in words, but in memories. Yours, a market spiral, the scent of metal birds, the queen and her fan, the spinning disc, the rhythm floor, the old man's star map, the whispering books. You realize with a cold jolt, this isn't playback, it's recording. You're being written into the desert, and the archaeologists, maybe they weren't scared. Maybe they volunteered to become part of the story, to feed the machine. You back away from the ridge. Carefully, one of the recorders begins to hum. You didn't touch it. The sound grows louder, faster, and then cuts out. Dead silence. The sky above flickers. Just once. Like a light bulb trying to decide if it's still real. You look down at your ring. The sand inside is gone. In its place, liquid, mercury, oil, time. Hard to say. Your mirror disc glows again, just briefly, and somewhere behind you, in the dunes, a fan turns. Next, a lone nomad with a wristband that chirps like a bird every time a sandstorm hits the right rhythm, and a language made entirely of time signals. Get some rest. You'll need to learn how to listen without ears. You're following birdsong. Except there are no birds. The sound comes in short, measured chirps, high, then low, then two sharp staccato notes. It repeats every 30 steps or so, like a metronome that's been watching you long enough to know your pace. It's not random. It's a signal. You're sure of it. And then you see him, seated cross-legged atop a narrow rock outcrop, as still as the sunrise. His robe is layered linen, the color of dry grass and faded smoke. His face is covered only. His eyes show, sharp and dry and old in a way that makes you question if he actually needs skin anymore. He holds up his hand before you can speak. A bracelet on his wrist flashes softly. Beep, beep, dash beep. He points at it, then at you, then at the sky. You look up. Cloudless. Then he points at the sand. You realize something. The sound is a response, not to your movement, to the deserts. You kneel. Feel the grains beneath your fingers shift gently, rhythmically, like breath. The wind isn't blowing now. The sun is steady, and yet the dunes are moving, not drifting, pulsing, like they're alive. The nomad stands and begins to walk, and you follow. He doesn't speak, but every few steps, his bracelet chirps again, in new patterns, sometimes loud, sometimes barely audible. He gestures occasionally, shaping the air with his fingers like he's sculpting silence. Eventually, you understand, he's speaking. In intervals. Each chirp is a sound mark, a time stamp, but not for when, for what, for how. He isn't giving directions or names. He's describing feelings, temperatures, shifts in tone. His entire language is temporal. Everything is told through rhythm and pulse. You begin to hear it. The wind picks up. It whistles through a crack in the rocks. Nearby, the chirp on his bracelet syncs with it. He stops, lifts a hand, and slowly lowers himself to the sand. You do the same. He places his bracelet on the ground between you. It keeps chirping. But now the sand responds. Tiny ripples around the device begin to form. Not natural ones. Geometric. You gasp softly. The bracelet isn't just a speaker. It's a translator. It listens to the wind, the temperature, the pressure underfoot. And replies. You realize you're watching a conversation between a man and the Sahara. According to a few rare journals, most of them dismissed outright, some Tuareg descendants retained knowledge of an ancient signal script, a language not of sound, but of timed vibration, a system used to communicate across distances when words would get lost in the wind. Most say it's folklore, others call it an auditory illusion. But this man, he's not hallucinating, he's fluent. He taps the sand with one finger. The chirping stops. He looks at you and gestures to your ring. You hold it up. He touches it gently. It pulses. A ping. Your bracelet answers. Wait here. Not wearing a bracelet. The pulse came from inside you. You freeze. He smiles behind his scarf, just slightly, and points not at the desert, not at the sky, at your chest. The message is clear. You're now. You're part of the network. Your body is a transmitter. Your breath, a signal. Your presence, a tone embedded in the greater song of shifting sand. He places a smooth stone in your palm. On it, a spiral of dots, 3 faint notches, a single word in that same signal script. You blink. And somehow, you know what it says. Arrival. He stands, takes the bracelet, straps it back on, walks away into the wind without a backward glance. And you sit there for a while. Let the silence speak. Then you notice your surroundings have changed. No longer dunes. Flat, pressed stone, a plaza. You're inside a structured but one without walls. Just columns spaced evenly around you, their shadows too perfect, too deliberate. And the sand underfoot vibrates. Not just with your heartbeat, but with the chorus of those who've walked here before, each of them adding a note, a signal, A line of code in the longest message ever sent. The bracelet chirps again, but you're not wearing it. It's in the air now, everywhere, and your mirror. It reflects not your face, but a spiraling star map, pulsing in rhythm with the chirps. Next, a tower so tall the sand can't reach it, hiding a melody that has only ever been played once and never forgotten. Sleep, if you dare. You've just become part of the broadcast. There it is. You see it from miles away though. Miles doesn't feel like the right unit anymore. Time has stretched, flexed, rearranged itself, and now distance feels more like a suggestion than a measurement. Still, the structure is unmistakable. A tower, taller than it should be. So tall that the dunes refuse to climb it. They stop politely at its base, like a tide held back by invisible hands. It juts from the ground like a needle through fabric, impossibly thin and impossibly straight. No stairs, no windows, no doors. Just height. You approach slowly. Each step feels lighter here, not easier, lighter, as if the rules of weight are different, like gravity's on a break. At the base of the tower is a platform, simple, circular, glassy smooth, no switches, no signs. But when you step onto it, something hums to life beneath your feet, and then you rise. Not fly, not float. Rise. Silently, steadily, like you're being drawn upward by the memory of a dream. The desert falls away beneath you. The wind grows thin and taut. The light shifts less golden, more silver now. You pass flocks of metallic birds that wheel lazily in the air and ignore you entirely, as though they've seen this ascent 1,000 times before. And still, the tower climbs. It's not just tall, it's out of place, out of time. You press your hand to the smooth surface beside you. It's cool, buzzing slightly. You see faint lines, now grooves, too fine to notice before. They trace upward in patterns, circles within spirals, frequencies, carved into stone. This isn't a building, it's a needle on a record, and you're riding that groove. You finally stop ascending when the desert is a suggestion on the curve of the earth. The horizon flickers with the heat of memory. The sky here is black, not dark. Black, pure, deep, studded with stars that pulse not in light, but in rhythm. You step off the platform. A chamber waits open to the sky. Minimal, silent, but at the center something you've never seen before. A bowl, massive, smooth, like a satellite dish carved from stone. It faces upward, tilted ever so slightly, and in the center, a single stone rod. And hanging from that rod a bell. It's small, understated, the color of ash and bone, but you can feel it in your moles, in your spine. This bell has rung before once, and everything changed. You don't know who rang it. You don't know why, but every particle in your body knows it happened. The echo of that single note stitched time together, synchronized winds across cities, whispered secrets into ancient fans, spun discs, timed footsteps. Started the song, and it hasn't rung since. Until now, because you're standing in front of it, and the rod, it's humming. You look around. No signs, no inscriptions, just the silence of anticipation. You reach out, one finger extended. Touch the rod, and the bell sings. It's not loud, it's not sharp, it's long, like someone striking a cathedral from inside a canyon, like the breath of the earth being pulled through a flute the size of a mountain. The note goes on, and on, and inward. The sky ripples, the desert below stills. Your ring glows, your mirror flickers. Every artifact you've carried, from the Queen's fan to the old man's star map, all of it hums in harmony. And then, you see it. Across the sky, the stars shift, rearranged into a pattern you recognize. The spiral etched into the library floor, the rhythm from the echoing chamber, the melody from your own footsteps. It's the chorus, playing again. You sit beside the bell. No one speaks, but the sound continues soft, now fading, embedding itself into the fabric of things. And you understand, this tower wasn't made to mark time, it was made to restart it. A tuning fork for the universe. And you're part of the song now. The desert below begins to move again. The dunes ripple, the circuits reconnect, and somewhere in the sand, a whisper stirs. He rang the bell. Coming next, a graveyard with no names, only wind-scarred stones, and graves timed to seasons, not days. A place where death forgot how to measure itself. Close your eyes, you're still ringing. You descend in silence, not the uncomfortable kind. the holy kind, the kind of silence that follows a symphony. When the conductor lowers their hands and the audience doesn't dare clap yet, because the last note is still hanging in the air, invisible, but undeniable. The bell isn't ringing anymore, but it hasn't stopped either. The sound now lives in you, and with each step down the tower, something inside you echoes gently, like wind remembering a melody it once carried. Across 1,000 dunes, you reach ground level. The desert greets you differently this time, less harsh, less alien. The wind no longer scratches, it hums. The light has gone soft and amber, like a candlelit room waiting patiently for the story to resume. Ahead, spread across a wide plateau of cracked stone, is a graveyard. No walls, no gate, just rows and rows of stone markers, short, rounded, uneven. No names, no dates, no flowers, only wind-carved faces and shallow bowls cut into their tops, where sand has gathered like sleep in the corner of an eye. You step between them, and at first, it feels like wandering a field of forgetfulness, like these were lives the world let fade without resistance. But then you look closer. Each stone leans slightly, not randomly, intentionally. You crouch beside one, run your hand across its surface, smooth on one side, pitted on the other, etched lightly with not symbols, but channels, grooves. You follow one with your finger. It winds around the stone like a spiral staircase, narrowing near the base. At the top, that small bowl of sand, the grooves trace from it downward, all the way to the earth, and then the breeze picks up just slightly. A whisper of air glides across the graveyard, and you hear it, ho, oh, 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 a soft tone from the stone. Then another, and another, each one sings, differently, low, high, broken, whole. You realize, slowly and fully, what this place is, not a resting place, a recording. Each grave is a timekeeper, each groove is a channel. The sand, the wind, the angle of the sun, they all combine to play the memory of a life. Like the needle of a record player passing over the etchings of a song. There are no names here, because names fade, but frequency, vibration, that lingers. You sit down among them, let the tones wash over you. Some are melodic, others are off-key. One is barely a breath, but together they form a quiet, shifting harmony, the world's slowest, saddest symphony. Historians have heard of this place maybe. A few obscure footnotes mention singing stones found in an unnamed region near the central Sahara. They were dismissed as naturally eroded vents, wind flutes, geological anomalies. No one stayed long enough to listen, but you're here now. And it's not just music, it's timing, because each grave only sings at a specific moment, when the sun is at a certain height, when the wind blows from the right direction, when the sand in the bowl weighs exactly as much as a final breath. That's how they marked passing. Not by date, by alignment, by resonance. You walk to the center of the graveyard. A wide, circular stone lies flat, etched with an enormous spiral. Around the edges, dots, carvings of constellations. Not for navigation, for calibration. This is the tuner, and right in the middle your ring glows softly. You place it on the center stone. It hums. The tones around you shift slightly. Stabilize. And now the stones begin to sing together. 1, 2, then 5, then dozens. A funeral choir that has waited centuries for its conductor to return. You don't cry, but something inside you quietly unravels, because now, for the first time, these forgotten lives aren't just humming, they're heard. You lie back on the stone. The stars begin to return overhead, slow, deliberate, perfectly placed. You recognize a few. The crooked one from the map, the one the old man pointed to, is wrong. But they're right tonight, perfectly, impossibly right. And then you hear one last tone, softer than breath, a voice. Yours, but from earlier, much earlier, singing back. Next, the final place, the biggest hourglass in the Sahara, a dome of silence, a whisper of completion. You'll lie beneath it and feel every second fall like grains of understanding. Sleep gently now. You've nearly returned to the beginning. You walk slowly now, not from exhaustion, though the weight of everything you've seen hangs on your shoulders like a well-worn cloak, but because something in the air tells you, this is it, the end of the road. The edge of the song. The silence. Before the final note, you crest one last dune, and there it is, the hourglass. It's not buried, it's not hidden, it's right there, as if the desert built itself around it and forgot to tell anyone. The structure rises like a bubble from the sand, a massive dome of glass and stone, veined with spiraling channels that sparkle under the starlight. It hums, not with sound, but with presence. You can feel the time here before you even enter. It presses against your chest, lingers in your teeth. The wind stops. You step inside, and it's quiet, not mute still, like the air has agreed to hold its breath for just a little while longer. The floor curves beneath you, descending gradually in a perfect spiral, like the grooves of a record slowing to its final loop. You walk the curve. It leads you down, gently, deeply, until you reach the center. There is no machine here, no ticking, no gears. Just sand, a single stream of it falling from above through a narrow slit at the top of the dome. The stream is steady, fine, unbroken. It falls into a shallow pool of glass at your feet, slowly piling into a cone that has no beginning, no end. You sit beside it, and for a moment, you don't think, you just are. You watch the grains fall, each one glints with memory of steps taken, bells rung, stars questioned, melodies danced, stones sung. Every place you've passed through, every impossible moment that was somehow real, is contained in the soft sound of falling sand. You reach out, let the grains touch your palm. Warm, light, gone, just like that. And yet they stay with you, somewhere in this hourglass. Your arrival has already been recorded, and your departure, it's being counted now. You look around the dome. In the walls are faint images, shadows maybe, or imprints left by others who sat here before. Their outlines drift and fade like sand drawings swept by time. You feel them near you, not haunting. Humming. You lie back on the glass. The stream continues to fall above you, cascading gently in a pillar of time, and then a voice, yours, speaking, softly, whispering something you haven't said yet. The dome echoes it back, not once, not twice, but again and again, until it becomes a lullaby, layered into the windless air. You don't know how long you lie there, an hour, 1,000 years, it doesn't matter. The hourglass knows, and it doesn't judge, it simply counts. Eventually, the stream slows, not because it ends but because you're ready. The ring on your hand dims. The mirror in your satchel cools. The tones fade, and the sand keeps falling whether you watch it or not. You close your eyes, and the dome fades with you. The desert softens, pulls you into its breath, and for the first time, truly, finally you sleep. No countdown, no alarm, just sand, just stillness, just time, wrapping around you like a song with no final note.